Thank you for joining us. Today we'll be speaking on who an entrepreneur is versus who an entrepreneur is not. If you are new here, click the subscribe button, subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and drop a comment. An entrepreneur does not take risk haphazardly. An entrepreneur recognizes the need to sit down and observe the market trend, observe the resources at hand, observe their capital and their financial forecast before taking any risk. So anyone who just take risk haphazardly without counting their costs, without putting into consideration their affordable losses, is not an entrepreneur. So an entrepreneur does not take risk haphazardly. And this brings us to who an entrepreneur is.
Is a calculated risk taker. He does not just go into business without counting the cost. What is it that is going to gain having invested his money? He makes sure that he looks at the market, surveys the market, looks at the people that will be the target audience. Will they be interested in what is bringing into the market? He finds out that whether the environment will be conducive for that business, and at the same time finds out whether what he's going to invest will bring profits higher than what he has committed into the business. So an entrepreneur is not just anybody that will go into business without sitting down to do an in-depth study of whatever he's going to get from that business, because all he's after is profit. Not just because somebody is doing a business, he wants to go into it also. No, he calculates his risk and balance it to see whether he's going to get something tangible out of what he's going to invest. And at the same time, he looks at the resources and all other necessary inputs for him to be able to stand on his own and have returns on his investment.
An entrepreneur is not a superhero that makes everything happen. An entrepreneur is not an ice cream that makes everyone happy. An entrepreneur focuses on specific niches in the market. They narrow down their focus to specific problems, specific opportunities. You see, when you see anyone who takes this and that and that and that, the person will get very good at doing nothing. So an entrepreneur has their focus on specific things. So an entrepreneur does not make everything happen. An entrepreneur is not the answer to all human problems. This brings us to who an entrepreneur is.
An entrepreneur solves specific problems. We have various areas in which entrepreneurs operate. Those in the education sector are edupreneurs. Those in the agricultural sector are agropreneurs. Those in the technology sector are technopreneurs, which means each of them has specific skill to solve problems in specific areas. Entrepreneurs are not just jack of all trades, master of none. Each of them specializes in what they know how to do, and when they do that, it's not for free. It is done at a profit. That is why we have them being specialized in particular sectors of human needs.
An entrepreneur is a deep thinker. An entrepreneur recognizes that they cannot operate in a noisy area, in a noisy environment. As such, they always find time to seclude themselves in a quiet environment, in a serene environment, to think deeply and reflect. And they tap into the creative world through their mental exercise of thinking. So an entrepreneur is somebody who takes time to think deeply, to reflect, to ask questions within himself, to to look at things from the inside. So an entrepreneur takes time to think. They recognizes that nobody can do anything without first thinking. So they get their inkling first from their mental image, and then they come forward to develop that which they are pictured in their mind. And this brings us to who an entrepreneur is not.
An entrepreneur is not a robot. Robots have been, robots are used in place of human beings in some parts of the world, especially Japan, where you have robots taking your orders at eateries, serving you or welcoming you even at the entrance of the door of the eateries, or even in European countries where we have robots serving drugs in hospitals. Robots cannot do anything outside of what has been already programmed. But human beings will think of what is the likely strategy to be put in place, especially when you have entrepreneurs. He thinks before, or is proactive, thinking that what if this happens, let me get this one ready. Robots cannot do that. Entrepreneurs also make sure that everything he does is at a profit, not just for fun. Robots cannot think. Robots cannot bring in innovation and creativity. So we cannot replace human beings with robots. It makes the role of an entrepreneur to be very, very dynamic and cannot be replaced by robots or any smart technology.
Entrepreneur is not someone who always have the necessary and required resources, and this makes them always collaborate and combine their resources with other industry. For example, in Africa, we have PayPal collaborate with Flutterwave to make payment easy for merchants in this part of the world that we live in. So an entrepreneur, sometimes when they do not have the necessary and required resources, they engage in what we call bricolage. By bricolage, I mean that they use the resources at hand to solve new problems and new business opportunity by combining what they know, who they know, what they have, leveraging on those things that they know and they have to bring about the needed change in the industry that they operate in. So an entrepreneur is not someone who always have the answers to all the problems. They recognize the need to collaborate with others. They recognize the need to work with others. They recognize the need to engage in market survey, to look out in some other ways. And this brings us to who an entrepreneur is not.
An entrepreneur is not a lone ranger. He's not somebody that will stay in a place alone and does his work without connecting with the world and keep abreast of what is going in the business world. He looks for information, he looks for areas of need of people, and at the same time, he finds out some information about whatever is intending to do to be able to key into new market opportunities and solve problems at a profit. A profit is very, very essential when it comes to the issue of an entrepreneur, because he wants to make money. Anybody who works alone is not an entrepreneur, because there won't be any room for learning and development.
Thank you for joining us. We are
Ronki Ella.